You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 31st of October. Bulgaria sends coffins and illegal immigrants to the UK. Another unreported Labour Party paedophile. Norway beats the UK 3-8 in employment stakes. Italy's losses are even worse. And the poor Portuguese are taking the biscuit. Hurricane Sandy. Iraq annoyed at UN search of Iraqi planes. Thought for the day, women and Islam. And finally, a cautionary tale for Halloween. UK news. Bulgaria sends coffins and illegal immigrants to UK. The sniffer dog Mitzi discovered 3 illegal immigrants from Eritrea hiding in a load of coffins at the port of Dunkirk. The trio were found in a van bound from Bulgaria to a London funeral home. They were handed over to French border police. A World at 8 writer commented, "The most interesting point of this whole story is that it was reported first in the New Zealand Herald several hours before being picked up by our British newspapers." Another point, don't we even make our own coffins anymore? Another unreported Labour Party paedophile. Former Labour Party spin doctor Samuel Gamlin appeared in court in Newcastle Upon Tyne earlier this month on charges related to child pornography. Gamlin, aged 20, was first accused in May of this year of creating 2 vile and sickening movies incorporating explicit photos of youngsters. In June this changed to his having downloaded the films. This month it is reported he has sickening films featuring montage of explicit photos of youngsters. If you try a web search of Samuel Gamlin, you will have extreme difficulty in finding details of the offence. No mainstream media outlet has reported this story and it's found only in the Court News UK website. Euronews. Norway beats UK 3-8 in the unemployment stakes. Nationalists in Norway have expressed their anger at the left-wing government allowing Norwegian jobs to go to immigrants. Out of the 50,000 new jobs in Norway that were created this year, 35,000 of them were given to immigrants. Now they're allocating 30 million kroner, or about £3 million, for immigrant jobs training programmes. Gina Lund, a Labour Party State Secretary, has stated the government was not doing enough to help immigrants. In all fairness, Norway has a population of just over 5 million and an unemployment rate of 3%, whilst the United Kingdom, with a population of 62 million, has an unemployment rate of 8%. Our government continually tell us we're on the road to recovery. Don't believe it. A World at 8 reporter comments, Norway is obviously doing too much for the immigrants, not too little, or else they'd go home. Italy's losses are even worse. Last month Italy faced a huge rise in unemployment. September's figures for Italy show that unemployment for youth is still on the rise as national unemployment hits over the 10.8% for their population of 6 million. Almost 6.5 million Italians are out of work, and we in the UK complain because we only have 5 million Brits out of work. Italian nationalists claim that thousands of jobs are being lost to foreign workers entering the country illegally and setting up businesses and displacing entire genuine Italian communities. We know that problem only too well in the UK, don't we? And the poor Portuguese are taking the biscuit. With an unemployment fast approaching 16%, the 10.5 million, better make that 8.8 million employed Portuguese are facing higher taxes to meet the EU's bailout terms. The Guardian is reporting that the tax rise in just their income tax could be up to 2 months' salary for some Portuguese. Since the Portuguese have a 20% base rate, this means it will rise to 36% for most of them. Still glad to be in Britain with our 20% base rate, aren't we? World news. Hurricane Sandy. The death toll from the hurricane to hit America has now reached 55, with many casualties. An estimated $50 billion worth of damage is reported by US state TV stations. Reports of up to 8 million homes from New York to Michigan are without any electricity due to Hurricane Sandy, which battered the eastern seaboard of America and then moved over 800 miles inland, reaching as far as Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Around 18,000 flights in and out of the East and Midwest were cancelled due to the sheer power of the storm that was over 300 miles wide when it came ashore. Iraq angry at UN search of Iraqi aircraft. Violence in Iraq has increased, with sources on the ground saying that the violence is actually escalated by the fact that widespread corruption encourages it. Al-Qaeda has claimed all responsibilities for the latest spate of shootings and the assassinations in Iraq recently. A separate faction of Al-Qaeda is said to be also responsible for dozens of innocent people being killed around Baghdad in car bomb attacks and various other explosive devices. Iran is angry at the UN's involvement of the searching of its planes on Iraqi ground. The UN placed a strict ruling to the Iraqi government to search all Iranian planes travelling to Syria. The search of Iranian planes have only revealed humanitarian aid to the rebels in Syria. Thought for the day: what about young women in repressive societies? Now this thought is for the many young girls in various countries who suffer under a repressive regime, religion or culture. Now we in the West have our own problems with young women who seem to think the world owes them a living. They just keep on drinking or on drugs, have no intention of committing to another's soul and never want children. They and many others have been brought up with a mantra, you deserve it, and yes they do. The barren and awful lives that may be theirs when they hit that 40 mark, when all young men have married and if not, they want younger meat. A second-rate career does not keep you warm at night or do anything for the future of one's country. It is with this in mind that one can understand the pull of Islam to certain young women in the UK. They reject the New World Order and opt for the Third World Order instead, and you can see that if the only possible alternative to these girls of being a ladette is to convert to Islam, then Islam wins. Now it's well known that converts to any religion adhere to that faith more than those born into the faith. But the order and family life that Islam presents on its good side is a compelling pull away from the drunken nights ending up in the gutter. Now the downside of many of these UK conversions is the fact that many of these girls have either married or are living with Muslim converts or British-born Muslims. In some ways they may have the best of both worlds, but only time will tell on that one. However, their sisters in Islam especially do not enjoy the benefits of Western society while sitting on their backsides procreating future little jihadists. In Pakistan, the Taliban, or rather the Muslim Mujahideen version of true fascists, have threatened yet another child activist after the shooting of Malala Yousafzai this month. Hina Khan, 17 from Swat, has been warned in phone calls that she will be next as she helps in her parents' work to help women. Her father, Riayatullah Khan, said, the Taliban have kidnapped me and tortured me in the past for promoting women's development, but now they are threatening the entire family. In fact, Malala has made good progress, and one of the reports says she is doing very well. In fact, she is standing with some help for the first time this morning when I went to see her, said Dr. David Rosser, the medical director of Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, England. Good luck, Malala. This is the darker and more prevalent side of Islam. This is the step over which no women may pass. Where you have a religion that bases itself on a man's rules, and those rules influence all the culture and home lives of those who participate in it, a woman's position will never change. Although I'm not a woman's libber, I do believe that women have certain rights. They are entitled to earn the same money for the same job. They are entitled to receive an education which will stand them in good stead for something other than the kitchen sink if they wish. They are entitled to keep their own money. They are entitled to vote. And they are entitled to, some say, if they are deserted. They are also entitled to have a say in the future of the children of any marriage. These are the basic rights which Western women have enjoyed and to some extent ruined. Western society is now totally disorientated with regard to girls and women. In one breath we denounce gropers and sexual predators, yet in another we ignore that this is on the increase, as is the early sexualisation of our females. Contraception, abortion and the morning after pill are available practically on demand for female babies. Our females are not encouraged to marry or produce children, unless it is of course a passing Somali. Divorce rights for women are now verging on the ridiculous and are more tailored to wealthy American film stars than Joe Bloggs from Essex. In short, we women have let various governments and media ruin what Emily Pankhurst fought so long and so hard for. That is the right to be heard, not the right to denigrate and subhumanise the male species. Perhaps in some way the girls who convert to Islam are fighting back in the only way they know how. The trouble is that they're going from the frying pan into the fire. These poor little girls in Pakistan are the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Islam and women's rights. Under Islamic law they have no rights unless through their menfolk. A woman can be raped and she will be punished. A young girl can have her clitoris removed and her genitals mutilated in the name of religion. She can be divorced in a second. She can be bought and sold with no say in the matter. She does not have a right to education or even a say in who she marries or at what age she marries. In some countries she will remain shrouded in heavy cloth despite intense heat and have no say in her daughter's future. She will be brought up for the most part with no say at all and no opinion. If she's in this country or brought over, she will have to fit into a community that allows sexual grooming of another race and religion, and this is to be ignored. Even if her own husband is part of the gang, she will not be allowed to go anywhere alone, even to the mosque. Of course there are many enlightened and very rich Muslims who live very different lives. They dress in Western fashion and they drink and mix with the elite, but they are very many and few between. The norm is the Dagenham dustbin outfit, walking 9 paces behind and worn out from bearing children, which is a requisite of any Muslim marriage, especially in the UK. I feel very sorry for many young Muslim women who want to learn in their own countries and are not over here. I'm all for people staying in their own countries and improving them, not ours. Why was poor little Malala sent over here when she was so ill? Aren't there enough Pakistani doctors over there, or are they all over here? Get my point. Pakistan and other Muslim countries need to wake up and start educating their women instead of marrying them off to other Muslims in Europe. They need to make the most of their young. Educate them so that they can help educate the ones that follow. You do not need to leave Islam, but you do need to modernise it and adapt it. Muhammad existed in a very different society, but for the vast majority of Muslims, those times are still in existence for them, and they structure their culture around medieval principles and rules. Although Aung San Suu Kyi lived in a predominantly Buddhist culture, it was still male-driven, and she only has just been released from so-called house arrest, which has been her prison for the last 20 years. She is now in the Burmese parliament. She has been likened to Mandela, but in my opinion she is much better. She was never a terrorist and never killed anyone, whereas Mandela just happened to survive his prison sentence. I am a fan of Aung San. The only thing to say is that if she had been a man, like her father, she would have been killed and not imprisoned. But the culture of Islam is more deadly. At the present time it will not allow women the education or means to displace men. Perhaps they have learnt from Western society where such displacement can get out of hand. This is a shame because it gives little hope for Malala and Hina and the multitudes of young girls who want to better themselves. Because if you are anti-immigrant, as I am, you must realise that the only way they will get educated is to come over here or another Western European country, and that is simply not right. These girls should have the means in their own countries to live and be educated. It is every girl's right to have, and something that the Taliban and Islam do not want. And finally, here is a cautionary Halloween tale for those children or teenagers who use it just for extra sweets or just to be nuisances. In the late 1930s, in one of the deep southern states of America, there was a young girl who was home with her sister on this same night of Samhain, which is the true start of the Celtic calendar, which is November the 1st. She heard a knock at the door and the usual neighbourhood children were there and sweets went out all around. At the end of the evening there was another knock and a couple of local louts wanted trick or treat. She explained she had nothing left, and weren't they rather too old to be doing it? Whereupon they turned nasty and came into the kitchen where there was a large jug of orange juice on the table, covered up. One of the youths told her he would drink that as she had no treats left. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could utter, he strode over to the table, picked up the jug and swigged the lot. During the last mouthful he asked why she was at home and not out with friends, and she turned to him and said, "I'm home because I have a kidney infection and you have just drunk my sample for testing." This is true because that girl was my husband's aunt, so it isn't an urban legend. The lesson is not all things are what they appear to be. You have been listening to The World at 8. There'll be no World at 8 this Friday and no Sunday sermon as we are off-site for those days. We are, however, back in service on Monday the 5th of November in time for firework night. I am Lynn Mozart, and I and the team at World at 8 and Radio Britain wish you all a very happy and safe Halloween.